to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Today, we are joined for a second time with Rachael Bozsik, the top-ranked elite personal branding coach. Since her last visit to the show, I've had the joy and the fortune to become one of her clients, but also to become her friend. Rachael is everything she says she is. As you listen today, please take my word for it. She delivers everything that she says she does. Since her last time on the show, she has worked with many of the podcast guests that you have come to know, love, and respect, including Michele Williams, Jessica Madison, Jenny Slingerland, Ariane Belazar, and Sandra Funk, to name just a few. Now, I want to tell you, don't let the big names that Rachael has worked with intimidate you, because she also works with tons of designers that you've never heard of, that have not been on the show, people that I actually know personally, but you will not have known them from the show, okay? So Rachael is the person, I'm just going to say it. It literally is. She is who you hear her to be. So listen carefully, okay? Before we get started, if you did not hear Rachael's original episode, let me remind you of her impressive resume. In addition to working with some of the nation's most talented female entrepreneurs in the home design industry, Rachael's work has been featured in 40 national press outlets. She has empowered over 100,000 women when speaking on the stages of Harvard Business School and Luxury Home Summit, to name a few. And she's worked with such power brands as Oprah's Leadership Academy and Sephora. Okay? The real deal. Let me introduce you to Rachael Bozsik. Hi, Rachael. Thanks so much for joining me again on A Well-Designed Business.
Hey, Lou. I'm excited.
I am too. And this was absolutely 100% necessary. You were with us originally on episode 651 about a year ago, just about a year ago at this point. And it was so crazy because we had never met before. And as I'm learning about you and your business, and of course I had done some research, but the meeting of you in real life, well, virtual real life via Skype, was just such, it was such, I can't, what's the adjective I want? Like a energizing, uplifting experience. I mean, your energy, your aura, your love, it all comes through. And the entire time, it's so true, Rach, the whole time you're describing your Luxe day and the way you work with your clients, and you're selective, you only take 4 a month. I legit, the whole time I'm going, I have to be one. I have to be one. I have to be one. I didn't say that on air. I didn't share that, but I have been lucky enough to be one since then. And what I love is, since you've been on the show, so many of the women that I respect and admire and have been on the show have also been your clients. So prior to being on my show, you had already worked with Kathy Kuo, but she, of course, was on the podcast. But since then, you've worked with Sandra Funk, Jessica Madison, Jenny Slingerland, Michele Williams. I mean, these are our leaders in the industry. And I know how you have worked for and with me, how you've supported me. I've gotten the feedback, but it was time. We had to have you back and like really share some of the results and the things that go on when you have the opportunity to work with you, Rachael.
Yeah, Lo, I just have so much fun working with my clients, and I feel so grateful. Like, I coach the leaders in the design industry, but I also coach so many up and comers that want to be the next leaders as well. So it's really like the honor of my lifetime to be able to do this work and be able to connect with women that, run beautiful businesses. Like, all of my clients are insanely brilliant at what they do, their craft, right? Like, they're great at like figuring out the function of the space or the design or this, that, and the other, managing their team. But then they come to a point when they say to me, I'm exhausted, right? I'm working with too many clients at a given time. I'm working with, call it 20, 30, 40, 50 clients a year, and I want to work with 15. I want to be known as the go-to. I want to be, charging top dollar, right? High ticket, low volume. How the heck do I do that? What's the strategy? How do I need to really monetize my personal brand for this business to really work for me and my lifestyle? So yes, I love working with my women. A lot of them have built brilliant businesses, and a lot of them at the same time, are on their way to building brilliant businesses as well.
Yeah. No, it's what it is I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit more about the process, but just having been through the process with you, some of the most, beneficial things that you bring to the table is a very clear, acute way of looking at what we've set up, what we're doing, and figuring out what our true superpower is. It was interesting working with you, and the Luxe Day is just...
We had fun. Yeah.
It's just such a fun experience to do. So I guess talk to me a little bit about that, Rachael. When you described it in the last episode, that you set an appointment out for your Luxe Day a couple of months out, and you're gathering lots of information and you're doing all of your homework on the person. And I remember when you came to me in New Jersey for the Luxe Day, you had like a 20-page document on me. And I mean, I was like, my mother doesn't know this much about me and my business. You know what I'm saying? You really thorough research, and the insights that you shared were on point and surprising to some extent. It just was like seeing right through the forest, through to the trees. So tell us a little bit about that process.
That's so funny, actually, that you just said that, because Sandra Funk and I were just chatting, and she was like writing me a testimonial, and she said the same exact thing,
really?
Forest from the trees. And I'm like, I haven't heard that in a long time. I'm like, yeah, I like that.
About twice in 2 days, right?
Yeah. Okay, so well, I feel like before we kind of get into the strategy and how I work with clients, let me do kind of a condensed version of what the heck do I do?
Okay.
Right? So basically, the biggest goal of my clients and why they come to me is, well, first of all, I primarily work with interior designers, but they come to me when they say, I want less clients. I want higher end luxury budgets, and I want to be seen as the go-to in my market. Right? That is the main theme of all of my clients. So how I help them do it, my signature work, I like to call the 4 Ps. It is positioning them as the go-to in the market, right? Who are they? How are we making them stand out? How are we making sure that they're charging top dollar? And then it is the press, getting them the press around their brand so they have the credibility and authority. Some of my clients, like you, Lou, right? Or Sandra is a great example. Or actually, Ari Belazare, she is coming into Charleston to work with me tonight. We're going to dinner.
Oh, my goodness. I love Ariane.
Oh, my God. I love her. But they're interested, the 3rd P, which is paid speaking. Not all my clients, but, I call them 30% of them, is the 3rd P. And then the last one is 4P, partnership. So let me give you an example. So a lot of my clients would say to me, I want to be known as the go-to in my area for designing new builds. I want the luxury new builds, right? Start to finish, baby. And then that's the 1st P, positioning. And then they also want to get featured in Architectural Digest. So they have the credibility to have those sorts of high rates, right? And also the ability to, partner with the ideal builders, the luxury builders that fill the pipeline. There's the 3rd partnership. And then maybe the 4th P is they want to do paid speaking at High Point Market. Does that make sense? So
yes.
All of that 4P, positioning, press, paid speaking, partnerships, it helps them become the go-to and charge top rate. So they don't have to work on small projects with tons of clients.
Right.
They want to work with 15 people a year maximum.
Right.
And how do they do that? They have to become the go-to in their market. And guess what? Some of my most successful clients that I have served, they're only like 2-3 years into their business. You don't have to have this like 10-year seasoned experience sort of thing. I mean, my clients really like hit this like key area where I say they've made 500 grand in their business, right? On average, they've started, they're there or above. They're like a year or two in, 3 years, right? And they're just at a point where they're like, I know who I want to work with. I know my ideal client, right? They are the Johnsons over there. I had so much fun with them. They gave me full creative authority and they had a large budget. They trusted me. We had an amazing time. How do I get more of them? That's my client.
Okay. So let's just like zero in on that for a second. That is, so what you're basically saying is it's somewhat less dependent on whether you're in business 1 year or 10 years, whether you're grossing, 500,000 or 4 million a year. But that one little line in there is your clients know who their ideal client is. They know what they're going after. That's sort of one of the important things that we kind of need to know when coming to you. You're not helping us figure out who we are and who we serve. But once we've identified that, then you can help amplify and push that out to the market. Is that a fair statement?
Yes and no. Okay. So yes, in the sense of most of my clients come to me and they're like, I like this sort of client. I don't know who they are or where they're hanging out or how to get more of them, but I've identified I like this larger budget. But a lot of times my clients aren't able to identify the exact sort of client they want to work with. And none of my clients really come to me knowing how to market their superpower. That's your point of the forest from the trees. It's hard to know how to position yourself. It's hard to be a consumer of yourself. And that's where I really come in with the strategy of like, how are we going to position a client? Okay. Does that make sense? So it's like kind of a 50-50 is the best way to say it.
Okay. And then the thing is, what happens is when you do this, like, so go back to the process again. So you're doing all of this research and then you come to us for this Luxe Day. And I mean, of course, I remember the experience. It was outstanding. You're just like, it's all about me today. This is so much fun.
I love to spoil my clients, like every freaking detail. So Ari's staying, side note, but Ari's staying in downtown Charleston. I'm going to put her up in a hotel, a luxury hotel, 5-star all the way. It's a Luxe Day, right? And I had my assistant go over to her hotel last night and we have gifts in every corner. There's like a snack box with a Charleston guide with our, whole entire strategy for the Luxe Day. Like, what are we doing? Like a schedule. And then you go over into like the suite in the family room and we have custom candles for her with her logo to set the ambiance. Then she goes next to her bed and there's chocolates and Oreos, like chocolate covered Oreos with her sticker on them. Then she goes to the bathroom. So like, yes, I love to spoil my clients. Gifting is my, whatever you call it, my love language.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
It's
so like
truth.
all the details. Yeah.
No, it's so true. You start right at the beginning of the relationship. All of a sudden in comes a beautiful box and it's perfectly wrapped and it's absolutely and special and thoughtful and all the things. You really do. It's funny because like you said, you call it a Luxe Day and everything about it is luxe, and you do. And I have to say, Rachael, all of that is amazing. And it's like, I'm going to say it's sort of like I say on the podcast. I don't really care about the pretty. When I talk to an interior designer, I want to know what does he or she do well that they can teach us. And so I would never say I don't care about the gifts and the luxury and the way you pamper us, your clients. However, if that was all there was, and then the actual deliverable of the business end was less than, I'd be like, whatever, that's great. I got a bunch of presents. But you really do that. What I love about it is that the deliverable of the business day is just thrown over the top with all of the thoughtfulness that you do leading up to it and post. And so that's a cool thing.
Yeah. And like, I always say this, like my clients are like sincerely my best friends. Like Jenny Slingerland and I talk all the time, right? Like about anything and everything. Like she had a major consultation 2 weeks after our time together. And you better believe during our time together, after we figured out her new positioning in the market, right? That she really wanted to be in a position where she was attracting high net worth in the sports industry. She's out in Arizona. We want the Cardinals, baby. Like, they have big budgets, and that's an ideal client, right? They are easy, those guys, compared to, a family with 4 kids.
Exactly.
So we positioned her as the go-to luxury designer out in Arizona for sports players. And then we're like, okay, baby, let's get the press. She got Wall Street Journal really quickly after us working together.
Wow.
And then we said, we need partnerships. So when I say partnerships, it can go in a lot of different ways. Ari, for example, like tonight, like we're talking an HGTV partnership. Cool. I love it. But most of my clients aren't interested in that sort of, I'm going to call it like public partnership. Most of my clients, I view partnerships as pipeline filling. So let's use Jenny, for example. Her ideal partners are sports agents, right? Sports agents hang out with her ideal clients, the Cardinals players, all day, every day. And if we can become friendly, if we can create a strategy and give them the marketing material, if we can educate them on how to essentially sell Jenny as an ambassador, the sports agents are going to fill the pipeline for Jenny. Does that make sense? So the positioning is she's the go-to luxury in the sports industry. She gets the players inside and out, how they want to grill, right? What their backyard looks like, how they want to entertain. We market her that way. And then let's get the press. We got her a Wall Street Journal feature after, right? And she was kind of already working on that when we came together. But how do we really monetize this to the next step and leverage it? And then how do we get the partnerships with the sports agents that are going to fill the pipeline? But my point is like right after Jenny and I worked together, she had a major consultation call, and we are going back and forth. And, during the consultation call, or during the Luxe Day, I'm really pretending to be my clients during their consultation calls. It's one of my favorite things that I do. If we are repositioning a client, which in 99% of the times we are, they need to talk about themselves and their team and their services in a way different way than they did before. Positioning yourself in luxury is way different than positioning yourself for anybody and everybody. So in a lot of cases, I'm literally coming up to your point on, I put together 30 pages, literally 30.
Like crazy.
I have so much fun doing it though. Of who is my client? How are we going to position them in the market? We come up with a brand library buzzword list, like literally a list that you will print and hand to your team and be like, use this in emails, right? Like use this in my social media posts. This is how we're positioning ourselves. And then I will pretend to be my client during a consultation call. I will literally have them record me for 20 or 30 minutes pretending to be them. So she, my clients become my friends. So we recorded it. And then very shortly after our Luxe Day, Jenny had the big call and she's going back and forth. I've been listening to you in my bathroom, preparing. So yes, my clients, and I appreciate you saying that. It's like very intensive strategy where I do all of the heavy lifting, all of it. And I hand it over to my clients so they can copy and paste it. I'm like, here is how you're going to position yourself. Copy and paste this new biography and put it on your website. Here is how you are positioning yourself. Here is your new consultation script. Here is how you are going to get press. Copy and paste this press template. Here is how we are going to reach out to luxury builders. And here's the marketing packet. This is exactly what I want you to say to them. And this is exactly what I want you to ask for in a partnership agreement. Like, here you go, baby. Like, here is how you're going to get higher end clients and less of them. Here's the strategy to make you the go-to. So yes, it is a lot of fun. And, I love my clients. I love them. They're my very, very best friends.
I know. It's so true. And you are, what's so also remarkable about you is it doesn't end at the Luxe Day. So you do give a deliverable of 25 to 30 pages, and it literally could end at the Luxe Day because, as you just described, we get the entire packet. Here's how to go do it. Now go do it. But it doesn't end there.
And also, right, like 10 hours of my assistant's time I throw in, so to help execute some things.
Yeah. But that is appreciated and absolutely valuable. But you continue on. You get the emails once a week, once every 2 weeks. Hey, Lou, I just saw an opportunity for you, blah, blah, blah. Or here comes the introduction. I think you should meet Luann. And Luann, I think you should meet this person. And well, you two ladies should take it from here. It's and we worked together almost a year ago, and those emails still come on the regular. And
Yeah.
that is another part of your service. And to your point, you call it, I become good friends with my
Yeah.
clients,
I
because
do.
you
Yeah.
do, because you develop a passion and a caring for them. But again, to me, I separate it and I say, that's great that she and I are friends, but it's the friend layer with the actionable deliverable of,
Yeah.
and it's not just, hi Lou, how's your grandchildren? It's, hi Lou, here's a
I'm
grandchildren,
like,
and you should meet this amazing author. She's killing it, and I think
yeah.
she would
I'm
be a
like,
good resource
yeah.
for you. So
Totally. I'm like, hi, Lou. Here's Fran Hauser, former
exactly.
president of Time Inc. Great podcast
Exactly.
interview. I think she's coming out soon. And
Yes.
also, she might be able to introduce you to your speakers agency. Yeah, I just
Exactly.
really believe in supporting women. And
Hmm.
I created my business. I mean, your guests could listen back if they haven't already to my previous episode, but I am just so deeply rooted in sisterhood and supporting women with resources and access. And what I love about my clients, like, and I said this earlier, but it's so true. It's like they are so good at what they do. I never in 1,000 years would tell like Sandra Funk like how to design a space,
Right.
right? Or I would never be saying to like Jessica Madison, like, here's how I would suggest you do, the landscaping architecture work of this home with the arches. Like, no way. But they're so good at what they do. But then they get kind of stuck. Everybody does. And it's hard, right? To be a consumer of your own business, to
Hmm.
see the forest from the trees, to take a step back and say, how can I work a whole lot smarter, right? While not working as hard.
Hmm.
That's the big goal. It's
And
all in the positioning.
what do you think it is, Rachel, in you that is able to see the things that we don't see in ourselves?
Honestly, Lou, I think it's a mixture of two things. I mean, my previous business, which is a whole nother story in the previous episode. I mean, I started in my college dorm. Like, I went to High Point University, and like I was, the youngest millennial or youngest person that's ever written for Design Today. I had a regular column, or I got my real estate agent or my real estate license and became an agent at 20. So I've been in the industry for a while. But my previous company, I worked with over 700 women to define their brand. So I think it's a mixture of like a lot of experience, like a lot. And then I also, and I'm sure your listeners can relate to this, like, when you feel like you're supposed to be doing something, it's like
Mm,
your God-given talent. Like you were
mm,
put on this earth to do that work. I know for a fact that this is what I'm supposed to do. I discovered it really early, and I spent a lot of time and energy really like curating this talent and
mm,
getting a ton of experience. So I almost like my special factor, no question, is looking at a woman and being like, here's exactly what you need to do to make a whole lot more money and get more time in your daily
mhm,
life. Like,
mhm.
here you go. So yeah, I think it's a mixture of a few things.
Do you have, in your process of getting to know your client prior to their Lux Day, do you have certain, things that run through your head that you're looking for? Like when I think about when I get ready for a chairman of the board client
Yeah.
that I'm going to work with for a year, I want to know, the last 2 years gross revenue. I want to know
Mhm.
what they're paying themselves. I want to know the makeup of their team. I want to know what their, big goal is. I want to know the challenges. So there's certain things, and then all of that is just facts, right? But
Mhm.
then when you meet the person in real life, it all starts to meld into like mindset and, belief systems and all of that. But you are coming with a defined, here's what I see for you. Here's what I see in
Yeah.
you that you might have missed. So are there certain things that when you're doing the research on each of us that you're asking yourself to guide you into this such a clear view of us? It's weird.
Yeah, like here's the blueprint, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, yeah, so here's how it works, right? So whenever I have someone that's potentially interested in working with me, whether they saw me speaking at the Luxury Home Summit or Design Influencers Conference, right? Like I make my rounds on a lot of those stages. I have a background being a big keynote speaker. So if they hear me speak somewhere, or hear me on the podcast or referral, they always do an application with me. And I have a pretty extensive application. I want to know what the heck is going on in their business, why now is a good time. I'll review that. And then if I think that there's some potential there, that this is a top priority for them, like what they're doing now is no longer working and they know they need to fix it, then we set up a call. From that call, I'm able to really figure out, like, are they sitting on some sort of gold, I like to call it,
Mm.
that's not being marketed? Lou, actually, what I think might be helpful, should we maybe think about using some past clients right now to
Yes.
kind
Because
of
it
dig
makes it
through 'em? I
easier to
just think it'd
visualize,
be,
right?
you know what? Yeah, I think it makes it easier to visualize. And I think that a lot of your listeners may see themselves in a lot of my clients.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, let's do that. So let me give you an example. So I had this brilliant client, Maggie, and Maggie came to me when she was working with a lot of different types of clients, a lot of different budgets. She was doing historic properties, new builds. Sometimes she was doing furnishing. Sometimes she was doing renovation. And she was working with like way too many clients a year, like 50 clients a year.
Wow.
And she wants to work with like 10 to 15. So what I try to figure out with her is like, what kind of gold is she sitting on? And how are we going to niche her down and market her that way? So the types of gold that Maggie was sitting on is that she had a former background in real estate, and her husband owned a ton of Airbnbs. The also gold that she was sitting on is she's a mama, right? She has little kids and she is a real like professional, and so is her husband. So the positioning that we figured out for her is I wanted to make her the go-to seasoned designer for professional families in her area. I wanted her to be in a position where she could do beautiful turnkey design. She would be the trusted advisor for these families on these projects when they were far too busy. Let's say the husband works, right? He has his own business and the mom works as well. Or maybe the husband works and then the wife doesn't work, or vice versa. But they are freaking busy. They want turnkey. They want someone they can fully trust. And then the positioning, right? The gold that Maggie was sitting on is number one, she is a professional family herself. She is incredibly relatable. She has a background in real estate. She's a small business owner herself, right? And she has, because of her former Airbnb experience, the real advantage was she has a hidden Rolodex of preferred partners in the area. She was in Memphis, right? That she was sitting on that we could market correctly. So I just want to show you the difference. So when she came to me, she was like, I do design, right? Like, great. But like, so what? There's so many other designers. And like, I say that so kindly, but like, you guys, like if you're listening, like you can't just be like, hi, I'm a luxury designer, or hi, I'm a designer. Like in the straight talk, right? Lou, right. I feel like you and I are that way. I'm like, who cares, in the kindest way? Why you? Write this down, guys. Like, why you over everybody else?
Right.
Why you?
Right.
That's the positioning. So the why you and her niche down is go to seasoned professional family. She is designer for it. And the gold she was sitting on was some of her background experience. So that's a question that I'm always trying to figure out and ask clients, like, what have you done in the past that I could rework, remarket, and use to your advantage? A lot of times and I never want someone listening being like, I don't have anything. You guys, you do definitely have something. and it's just kind of how can we rework it and reposition in a way that's valuable to your ideal clients. I want to be really clear. You have to know who your ideal client is. And I do a lot of work with my clients to figure out who it is, but it has to be valuable to them. Okay?
So you hit on something, Rachael, that is 100% true. I just had an inside voice, outside voice recently where we talked about this, and one of the designers who is talented, seasoned, all the things. I mean, I think, if I'm correct, in business more than 15 and maybe 20 years, said just that. But how do I know what my differentiator is? And so when you talk about Maggie, we're talking about what I think a lot of designers listening would say is true for them. And so, lots of different clients, different budgets, does historical work, does new builds, does furnishings, is a professional, or her partner is a professional, has children, so a designer listening is thinking, well, that sounds like me, but how do you turn that, Rachael, into the specialness of Maggie and differentiate from, Susie?
Yeah. Okay. So that's where I come in and I'm like rewriting their bios. That's where I come in and I'm like, here's your consultation call script. That's where I come in and I'm like, send them over this investment guide ahead of time. And that's where like you need to make sure, what I would say to your listeners is like, once you figure out the positioning, a lot of times, ask friends and family, get them involved. It's really hard to view yourself as a consumer. It's really, really hard. Ask them what makes you special and different. Then you want to take that positioning and you want to make sure that it's consistent on every single platform. So like Maggie's bio on Instagram says like go-to designer for professional families, right? It's in her email signature. It's in marketing packets. When she gets on a consultation call, I trained her to say something along the lines of like, we work with clients like you all the time. Our expertise is seasoned professional families where you guys need a trusted advisor on the spot that knows the preferred partners to call, that can do a meeting at 10 a.m. when you're not there, that you can really see as your liaison and go to. I get that you guys are busy and you guys are the types of people that outsource. Right? You're the type of family that, sends out your groceries, that you send out childcare and outsource it, or you outsource a stylist or personal trainer, whatever's important to you. You need someone you can trust to outsource this, and I am that person. I do a lot of brand declaration with my clients. I do not let them wait for people to try to figure out who they are. We declare it ourselves. And once we declare it ourselves, what is so cool is a few things happen. Number one, it's way easier to get press. So there's a ton of other designers out there, but there's not a lot of designers that are saying, I work with seasoned professional families. That's my go-to. I know how to make it turnkey for this type of market. And within, 3 weeks of working with Maggie, we got her 3 press features. We got her Martha Stewart, we got her apartment therapy, and we got her realtor.com. Now, what's really important here is those 3 outlets are ideal to her dream client. Okay.
Right.
So she's working with professional families. Realtor.com, showing that she understands the business side of things and how homes are going to, have an ROI focus. And we don't want to make costly mistakes because I am your head liaison and I'm your advocate and advisor. That's really helpful. Where I'd have another client, maybe we'll go through a few others, where like Realtor.com is a horrible outlet for them and they need an architectural digest, right? So it's being really thoughtful there. And once we declare the positioning, the press is a lot easier. And then do you see how partnerships become easier? So what I did with Maggie is I'm like, okay, let's identify luxury realtors in your market that serve this ideal clientele. They're buying homes in her area between 1 and 3 million. Let's identify those realtors and tell them who you are, what you do, and what your offering is to the realtor to bring you clients. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's really cool. And after we declared all of this, we got the press and the partnerships, it happens pretty quickly. But I told her right away, I was like, we need to do a 75 grand minimum on your projects. You need to do a 3-room minimum. And 2 weeks after us working together and updating onto the site with the new positioning, she sold it right away using the consultation call script. People, ideal consumers, they want to feel like they are seen, that they can trust you, and that they are heard. So by you declaring, hey, I work with you all day, every day, types of clients similar to you, it makes them feel a whole lot more comfortable. Very similar to your audience right now, that they're like, Rachel, me, right? Works with these sorts of designers, these sorts of up and comers. She gets me. She gets this industry. I feel seen, safe, and heard with her.
Right.
That's what we have to do with your clients.
What I love about this is that first of all, your passion for your client ignites an excitement and passion in us. We start to see
I'm
as
hyper right now talking about Maggie.
What's that?
I said I'm hyper right now talking about Maggie. Yeah.
But when you are sitting in Maggie's seat, as I did as well, what happens is it's like you said, it's hard to see yourself through the consumer's eyes. But when you are putting all of this out there in the 30-page document and in your words, then you start to say, oh, I get it. Okay, this is the thing. I feel it now. And then through your scripts and different things of giving the language, because now what happens is, I can see in it the actual salesmanship, which is just so finely done. It's when you really understand, in this case, when you talked about this ideal client of seasoned professionals, busy people, and you say that I get you, I know you need someone you can trust and outsource your design to because you're busy, you can't be here at 10 o'clock when the carpenter comes. We all know this. designers that service professional families know this, but
You guys are doing it anyway. You're not positioning it though.
But that's
You're
my thing.
sitting on gold though. You're
That's
not
my
positioning
point.
it. Yep.
That's my point.
Oh,
You
I know.
are
I know.
explaining to us to say it, not to let it be inferred and not to let it be implied. And the result of that is when you are on the other side of that phone call and you are the seasoned professional and you are maybe the one that is tasked between the two partners of finding and interviewing the designer and trying to outsource this renovation or this build that you're going to do together, when you as a designer say the exact words that the couple has been saying between themselves, we need somebody that's going to handle this. Like, this is going to be a big job. How are we going to do this with the two kids and our businesses, and you're traveling and I've got this and I've got that. And then on the phone, the designer is saying, I know your life. I got your life. I live your life. And you need someone you can trust, just like you trust the daycare that you send your kids to.
Exactly.
It's like,
you got it, Lou.
Right.
You got it. And
It's
then
amazing.
it makes it so much easier for us to get press because you are ideal for that outlet. Right. And then it's easier for you to go to the realtors and say, I serve a similar market as you. Here's what I do. We need to figure out how to partner together. My whole entire work with my clients is like, how can we make this so much easier for you? How can you make more cash doing less work? Right. Should we do another example?
Yeah, I was going to say, you've got one with Emily or Anne. There's a couple of good ones that you have that we talked about.
Okay. Let's do Emily, and then I'd love to talk about Anne because I think she's a great one too. Okay. So I had a client, Emily. Emily's one of my favorite people in the world. Side note. Love her. You guys should be following her on Instagram. I'll give names later, I think. But anyway, Emily came to me when she was positioning herself as a budget-friendly designer. That's kind of where she started. And that's where a lot of my clients start too. You kind of start what feels comfortable to you. You kind of start with your neighbors and your family friends, and a lot of times they're budget friendly. And she was like, right? She's like been doing this for a few years, and she's like, no way, I'm freaking exhausted. Once again, too many projects. And I was like, all right, we got to position you. We have to niche down. What I found as her special factor is I really saw her as the local tastemaker that really travels the globe and sources for her clients. Right? I saw her as like the cool girl that the wives want to be friends with. The wives with higher budgets want to be friends with. Okay? Very different than Maggie, seasoned professional families. The positioning with Emily was cool girl, tastemaker, travels the globe to curate and source. She's like, like digging through the bins at antique shops. Right. And the wives want to be friends with her. So what I did was I redid the way that she was speaking to the clients, similar to Maggie, but just very different positioning. The consultation call was super different. The biography was super different. I knew that she was going to be talking to a lot of the wives that were making the decisions in the household. I literally helped her design and come up with an idea of, I'm going to put this kind of in quotes, but it's almost like a convince your husband document, right? Because the wife is the decision maker with Emily's ideal clients, right? Not everyone. I knew that the wife was going to be able to kind of like have a conversation with her husband, and I wanted her equipped. So I helped Emily create that document. I helped her reshape the way she was taking in her inquiry form. What types of questions was she asking? Why was she asking in a certain way? I mean, my God, her biography, we were talking about like the cool places that she's traveled, right? Where like, I didn't need to do that with Maggie. I did something very different. What was so cool about Emily is that she got 7 press features in 4 months of us working together.
Wow.
She got the big guys. We got her Arc Digest. We got her Better Homes and Gardens, My Domain, E-News. Wow. Do you see how us putting realtor.com is not that cool for Emily? It is not important to her ideal client. Her ideal clients are the wives making the decisions that want to quote unquote be like friendly with Emily. It was also a lot easier for me to help Emily get featured in Architectural Digest once we positioned her as a tastemaker. And then what we did was I knew that her partnerships weren't going to be with luxury builders or realtors, but I knew for a fact her partnerships were going to be in referrals from her past clients. If she was friendly with her clients, right, and she built that rapport with the wives, they hang out with similar families. So I helped her build out a partnership program for referrals with the wives. So each of my clients are so different, but the idea of the 4 Ps or the 3 Ps, like the positioning, the press, sometimes paid speaking, always partnerships, pipeline filling partnerships are always there. And the result with Emily, I got a call from her recently. She sold 600 grand in 3 weeks,
Wow.
only 4 months after our work. In the previous year, she did a bit over $1 million.
Wow.
It is the positioning. It's the positioning. It's so much easier, right? For you to like be like, yeah, I'm top dollar as featured in all of these press outlets, right? With the bio written differently, the consultation calls, when you figure out the positioning.
Right, right. Well, you know what's so funny is I think as consumers, we don't realize how much goes into the things that we casually see and read in the course of our day, week, month. So at, like you've been saying over and over again, you have an ability to see us as the consumer sees us and position us in a way that the right consumer finds us. But when we are this on the other side of the fence and we are reading Arc Digest or Better Homes, and maybe we're looking for an architect or we're looking for a landscape architect or somebody to work with, we don't read that article and think, oh, I wonder if they work with somebody that to position them and to create that document and to create that bio. We're just like, wow, that person's amazing.
Yes,
like,
you guys,
I want to
like
work with that person. I want to hire that person.
Strategy. And you know what's so funny? Lou, you and I were chatting about this like last week, but I'm getting married now and I'm planning my wedding and I know I'm excited. I actually met, side note, my fiance from one of my clients. And I say my clients are my best friends. I really mean it. But anyway, it's really interesting for me as a consumer now to be kind of shopping around for wedding planners. And guess what? I do this work all day, every day. Like I know what's going on in the behind the scenes, but when I see a wedding planner featured in Vogue with a killer bio, right? And all these amazing testimonials, I'm like, I want her. I don't care if she costs more. I want her. I get the game, right? But like it's so impactful for a consumer. And what is so interesting, and I just want your like listeners to know this, like you don't need to be 10 years in business to do this.
Right.
Actually, like the sooner you figure this out, the more success you're going to have. The more success, like Emily had zero press beyond a few local things prior to us working together.
Right.
7, you guys, 7 outlets in 4 months with the declaration and with the right positioning.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about it is it's the actual clarity, and that's one of the gifts that you have, and it's expressed in, for Maggie, realtor.com was gold, but for Emily it would just be like, what's the point of it? And sometimes we chase those shiny objects and don't recognize, here I am, I keep pitching to whether it's realtor.com or this or that or the other thing, and you never really think about, well, why do I even want this? It's like you think a string of press is valuable when the truth is, and this is how I've learned to see it through your eyes, and I want to make the point is, if I am a particular demographic client and I see 20 places you've been impressed, but only 3 of them are really where I visit, consume, and do whatever, I don't really care about the other 17.
Totally.
And that's where you see many business owners get lost in the weeds. And it's so if I really know who I want to attract, and I might have press in 20 places, but I only put up on my website the 3 most impactful ones, then they don't get lost in the shuffle when the person I'm looking for, who that means something to, comes to my website, right?
Totally.
Right.
Yeah. And I also want to make a quick note. Like what I'm really passionate about is the strategy, right? Like I want my clients to get press, no question. But I also know that they're not going to get a ton of ideal clients from the press. I just want to be super clear on that. It's not like you get a feature and you have like your whole entire pipeline's filled for the next 6 years. Like that's not what happens. But getting that feature for Emily in Architectural Digest, now my like strategy brain gets so excited with like, how can I take that Arc Digest and how can I leverage it for her to get her ideal clients, the wives, excited? Right. How can I take that and help the wives go refer their friends? Right. So I'm always interested in how can I strategize and leverage press for more sales. At the end of the day, like I want my clients making really good money. And it's not just getting a feature, it's how do you leverage it and what's the strategy behind it.
Right. And so that's actually very important to understand that the phone doesn't ring necessarily from the feature, but it's the credibility builder and it's the okay builder.
It's the authority builder.
Exactly.
The wedding planner featured in Vogue. I'm like, I expect her to be double. Right. And really the goal is for me to come to her. This is what I really try to do a lot of work with my clients on, but for me to come to her already convinced that I want that wedding planner. I saw her positioning. I read the bio. And now it's more of, will she take me? Is the question. That's
I'm pretty sure
I know
she
I did
will,
a
Rach.
really, yeah. You know what I mean? Like
No,
that's
teasing.
really, really good positioning. And that's where I want my clients. I like to call it the velvet rope. How do we create a velvet rope around you where it becomes a no-brainer for your ideal clients to say yes to you and to pay you top dollar for your work?
I love it.
Should we do one more example?
Yes, let's do it.
Do we have time?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. So I want to use one more example that I think will relate to a lot of your clients. So I had this brilliant client, Anne, that came to visit me for a Luxe Day in Charleston. And I do those in Charleston or Chicago, or Lou, to your point, I split my time between the two cities, or I fly to a client city. Anne came to Charleston with me, and she came to me where she was like before was designing family spaces and she was designing some playrooms, but it was like a lot of other designers. How many designers do you guys know that are out there that are designing family spaces? Like everyone, right? But the thing was, they weren't ideal budgets and it was limiting her creativity. And then she almost felt like she was in competition with other designers. Like how many of you guys can relate to that? Where like the consumer was shopping around, right? They're getting quotes from all these other designers to figure out who they wanted. She was not velvet roped. So what I mean by that is people weren't kind of waiting in line being like, can I get Anne? Right? Because she was not positioning herself to her full value and potential. She's so talented and all of my clients are. So what we did with her first P, the positioning, we niched her down and we said, let's position you as just the go-to for luxury playrooms for high net worth individuals. I want it to be the attorneys, the VPs, the CEOs. And what we need to do is we need to position you as an expert in holistic play. Now, what was super interesting about Anne and like most of my clients is they are sitting on gold, I like to call it. Years and years ago, Anne had a background. This is like through my discovery, right? I'm like hopping on multiple calls pre-Luxe Day, like to develop the 30 pages of notes. Like there's an extensive intake process. It's not just the day, but extensive leading up to it. That's why I only work with a few clients a month. But anyway, during this, I learned that Anne has a background in higher education, like years and years ago. And she recognized with a team that there was a disconnect in how kids were playing. Now they're addicted to the tablets. They're not developing leadership and social skills. So she helped collaborate to create a holistic play curriculum that's now taught today in over 55 school districts.
Wow.
So really cool. But she wasn't positioning that when I met her. She was sitting on this gold. So do you see the difference now with us saying, like, rather than she does family spaces, we're like, Anne is an in-demand playroom designer, right? She creates play spaces that are really focused on education, that are really focused on holistic play. She's doing an observation of the kids playing. She's doing an audit on her toys. By the way, she has a background in early education and created a curriculum taught in 55 school districts.
Wow.
You see what just happened right there?
Yes.
She went from, being in quote unquote competition with other designers doing family spaces to being the freaking go-to total badass that she is, really marketing and positioning yourself correctly. So everyone listening right now, I want you to put yourself in the mind, let's call it like a VP or an attorney or a CEO, and your kids are addicted to their tablets, right? And all of a sudden you meet this woman and you're like, I want them to develop leadership skills. That's important to our family value. And you meet Anne. She's double the rate. Do you care? No.
You don't give a rip. It's your kid. You'll spend anything on your kids.
You got it. She's velvet roped where she gets to be in the position of, this is who I work with. This is what I do. And they're like, where do I cut the check?
Right.
right? So from there, I just want to show like how the other P's played out. Press. Once we made her the in-demand playroom designer, BuzzFeed, Apartment Therapy, and Parents Magazine. Parents, right? That's ideal to her market. BuzzFeed, that's like a really playful outlet. They came and followed shortly after. With Anne in particular, she's such like a bubbly and fun, amazing personality that she wanted to do speaking. And I was like, I love it, right? But let's make sure that it's the right speaking engagements. I wanted her to go in and speak at those 6-figure preschools. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Right? You're like, you have to interview to get into the preschool. I want her speaking there where, think about it, right? It's like 12 parents in the room. And if she can go in and speak and convert 2 or 3 clients, and these are 6-figure playrooms, that was $300,000 in an hour. So I showed her how to book herself, what to say, how to speak, and so forth. And then partnerships for her, people that fill the pipeline for her, or child therapists, outdoor play specialists, right? Wow. That fill the pipeline. So it was really interesting. Like the result of our work together is she created multiple 6-figure partnerships that fill the pipeline for her, like 1 month after our time together. And she turned a $70K no into a yes because I taught her the consultation call script.
Incredible.
There's a way different way to position yourself if you're talking family spaces on consultation calls, or if you're the in-demand playroom designer. So that's the work that I do. And you don't need to, and I just really want to stress this again. I think I've said this like twice, but I want to say it 3 times. You don't need to have 10 years in business to figure this stuff out. The sooner you figure this out, the more success you're going to have in your business. The easier it's going to be for you to convert your clients.
I have to say, every single one of the people that you have worked with that I know has spoken highly of the experience, myself included. But this example with Anne is killer.
Yeah, I mean, and I had a client last week in Chicago, Jessica, and she, formerly worked at Gensler. And I'm like, why aren't we marketing that correctly? Right. So like, I just have clients sitting on things. I have a client that had a corporate career in project management, like not design at all, but I'm like, we are sitting on gold here. You know how to manage like high profile projects and big budgets. Like we need to sell that.
Right.
So that's, and once again, it's like hard to view yourself as a consumer. So I never want anyone being like, no, duh. I mean, I'm in branding all day, every day, obviously. And I do an audit of myself like every 6 months. And like, I call in my friends and family and mentors to help me. It's a hard thing to do.
Yes. It's such a special gift that you have, Rachael, and the way you deliver it, both in the actual tactical deliverable and in the love and the joy that you wrap around it is really very unique. And it's no wonder that you are in the space that you are and doing the things that you do, because it's so clear, like you said, that you're just doing exactly what you were meant to do with your professional career. It's awesome. It's really, really something to just be in your wake. That's all I can say.
I appreciate that. And that's why I also try to make my services affordable to different women at different stages in their business, because I know for a fact, if you guys can figure this out, right? Like you're going to make it back by upgrading a client on a light fixture, right? Or you're going to make it back by closing that consultation call that I showed you how to do that you probably would have gotten before. And I just think it's really, really important that the earlier these women learn the strategies, the more successful they're going to be.
Yeah. And I hate to say it, but you really only will work with women. I mean, we have a lot of rock star male designers, but this is your thing. It's what you know, and that's where you really feel that you can bring the most value, right?
Yeah, and yes. And also to the point of I see and hear women all day, every day, it is a really there's an art and science to self-promotion. There really is. And so I work with clients all the time that say, I don't want to sound like I'm bragging. How do I do that? Or I have this kind of bug in my head that's telling me that I'm not good enough, or, I'm not ready for this market. I really know how to coach mindset through the positioning. So that's also why I love women, because my clients are sitting on gold is the best way to say it. They're so good at their craft, and how can we help them streamline it is what really, really excites me.
And it's important to note that that is an element of what you do, is that if you are attracted to the ideas and the work that Rachael does, but you have that little nudge at the back of your head that's saying, not me, maybe not me, you do really address that as well. And like I said, when you're sitting in the space and you see this 30-page document that she has prepared on her own through interviews with you and through the intake call, and you realize how much she has dug deeply into who you are, what you do, who you do it for, it's the first step to saying, oh, shut up, little voice. I am worthwhile. I can do this, right?
My clients are always like, hell yeah, right? Like they're always nodding their head and they're like, you're right. I do that. I was like, yeah. So it's a lot of fun.
It's awesome. It's awesome. I just love it. So you are very selective because you do put so much energy, love, and of yourself into each person that you work with. But how do people reach out if they want to see if they can get some of this magic fairy dust that you have, Rachael?
Well, okay, first thing I want to make a note on selective. So when I say selective, what I'm looking for in the women that I work with is, number one, this is a top priority for them, right? I love working with women that are so excited about this work. And on my previous podcast, I think I shared this with your audience, or Lou, you and I have chatted about this, but like I sold my previous company. Like I do this work now because it lights me up. Like I am so excited about this. So I want to work with women that this is a top priority for. I want to work with women that are in a position where they're like, tell me what to do. I'll do it. Like I'm excited. So that's what I mean by selective. I also want to work with women that are in a position in their business where they've had time to kind of play around and know like who they do not want to work with and who they enjoy, or what sorts of clients or projects they enjoy. So answer that question on selective. That's what that looks like. If you are interested in working with me and learning how I work with my clients through Luxe Days, or I have other packages. Luxe Days are just one of my favorites because we get to go out to long dinners and we have presents and you stay at a hotel suite in Charleston or Chicago. Go to my website. It's rachelbozsik.com. So RACHAEL, last name Bozsik, B as in boy, OZSIK.com. Read through the packages, fill out an application, and we can kind of take it from there. Just as a quick note, because I feel like everyone's going to be like, what does she cost, right? Like that's always the question.
That's where I was at this point during the thing. I was like, I don't care. I'm writing a check.
$9,000, tell me. Yeah, so I coach at 12,500, so 12,500. And that's like 2 nights at the hotel, the 30 pages of notes, the 10 hours of assistance time. And I think really important, like, forever access to me. Like I'm going to teach you, like you will upgrade that light fixture.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Throughout the house at 12.5, or you'll close that consultation call you never would have closed, and you'll have the strategy forever. So I really like to price myself in a way where it's like, yes, it's an investment and women understand it's an investment and it's important to them. But also like I want women to be able to access this at different stages in their business, because I really truly believe like the earlier we can do this work, the more success you're going to have long-term in your business.
It's
so
awesome.
Fill out an application. I'll review it. Like it's literally me. It's me and an assistant. And I purposely have my business positioned that way. And we will set up a call to see kind of what next steps look like.
Well, there's no question that it's literally you, because it's way too personal and way too, you just come, it's so 100% clear when you arrive in the space, or we arrive to your space, and you're so well prepared. So I just hats off to you, Rachael. I love that you do what you love.
Yeah. And I purposely did this way. My former company, I had 7 coaches that were training and teaching my methodology. Like when I set up my business this way, like I wanted it to be me. I miss the one-on-one rapport. So it's me all day, every day.
Yep. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on again. It's been so much fun.
Liv. Thank you. I appreciate the time, and this was a lot of fun.
All right. So, the conversation, that little snippet in the conversation we had about when we're in a room with 20 other women, or if you're in a room with 20 other men, right? We know in that moment we're not all the same. We don't even think about it, right? We don't even come in and go, I'm the same as everybody in this room. What's the point of me being here? We don't do that. You know that we don't do that. You know you don't do it, right? But why is it that when we're in a room with 20 people who do what we do for a living, that we think about that. And I know that that crosses the minds of some of you because I've been in the room where you asked me the question. I don't know what's different about me from the other designers in my area. And I need you to, just go back and recognize that you are 1,000 million little things, not just a designer. Okay. But, thankfully, we have people like Rachael who bring it out in us. Okay. So maybe you don't necessarily know the differentiators that do make you unique as a designer, but this is her secret sauce. Rachael actually sees what we don't see in ourselves. It's like she has a sonar for it. She is able to extract our superpower by the Q&A that she gives us, by the questions that she gives us. It's insane. And I love that she calls these past experiences that we have as the gold we're sitting on, right? And I want to tell you from, I listed in the intro several of the women that she's worked with, and I've had the after conversations with them. We've all had that same, I didn't think about these things that Rachael saw in me. I promise you, this is the experience of all of us, okay? And then we talk about these case studies, right? I really love these case studies, and I love the one with Anne. You heard me. You hear my voice when I love something in the middle of a show, right? What a powerful experience. You're doing playrooms. It's an amazing niche. I love it. But then to help Anne position herself into designing luxury playrooms with high net worth individuals, right? Getting her press in BuzzFeed, Apartment Therapy, and Parents, and then helping her set up paid speaking engagements at 6-figure preschools, all right? And then the partnerships with the luxury child therapists. This is a case study for the ages, right? It is not just the result of, the result is not just creating 6-figure partnerships and $70,000 clients. But the result is that that Anne has of the gold that was her background in education to position her to stand out and be the trusted person among the parents who could design the room, right? These amazing playrooms, all right? So here's the thing. You're sitting on gold. You are. It's not just your design talent. You are a unique, fully rounded person who brings everything you are into everything you do. And this is the reason people hire you. I tell you all the time, it's not about the pretty. We all expect you to create a pretty room. It's all of that other stuff that connects us to you, that draws us to you, that makes us want to work with you. And when I get that feeling, when any consumer gets that feeling, they're not likely to get it with 20 people. They're going to get it with one. And it could be you if you're out there telling us what those things are that are you, right? This is what Rachael does. She helps you uncover it, okay? So find out what the gold is that you're sitting on, all right? Whether it's on your own, okay? You can do it on your own, or you can have Rachael help you uncover it. All right. It doesn't matter. I have to say, I just recently did a Instagram live, a 2.5 hour Instagram live, and it's probably on my social where you could see it. But, you can do it on your own. It's easier, faster, quicker if you do it with Rachael Bozsik, okay? But this does remind me of Rachel Moriarty, who is an instructor at Luxe University. She teaches visibility for creatives. And in our Instagram Live, which, like I said, I'm sure it's in my social somewhere, you could see it, Rachael actually talked about, coincidentally, this same thing, how she realized that there were 3 pillars in her previous experiences that combine to create the deliverable for her interior design firm. And those 3 pillars are that she worked for, I think, a dozen or more years in banking with high net worth individuals, that she spent X amount of time, I don't recall how long, working in photo styling. And she also has a background in fashion. And if you know Rachael, you're just like, yeah, this all fits. And if you don't know her, go check her out, Rachel Moriarty. But B, the thing about it is that when Rachael crafts her message, her communication to her potential clients. She's telling them, with my background in banking, working with high net individuals, I know how to run the numbers. I know how to manage a project that comes in on time and on budget. And also her experience with that, like on the inside voice, she's not intimidated talking, speaking, negotiating, and having conversation with them, right? And then she adds into it her fashion and her photo styling. And the point is, go check out that Instagram video because you'll see and hear Rachael tell it in her own words. We'll also link in the show notes her podcast episodes here. And so what I'm saying to you is you can take a couple of years. I watch Rachael over 3-4 years develop this voice, develop and understand and uncover her own gold, right? Totally possible. But if, what we say, you pay in time or money. If you'd rather just have someone help you go from 0 to 10, Rachael's your girl. Rachael Bozsik is your girl because that's what she does. All right. So I have linked in the show notes the episodes of all of the wonderful women that Rachael has worked with. So go check them out. And you remember that the first step in working with Rachael Bozsik is filling out an application on her website, RachelBozsik.com. That's BOZSIK. And I want to thank our show sponsor, Rebel Woods. If you are looking for another way to differentiate yourself from other designers, how about being the wood flooring expert in the room? Through Rebel Woods trade program, you can learn, specify, and sell wood flooring, keeping this valuable revenue stream under your umbrella. Right? Increasing your profits on every project. All right. Go to rebelwoods.com today to learn more. Thank you so much, Rach, for joining us today. I want to tell you that I appreciate and value you and for all the things that you have brung into my life and also how you bring your gifts into the podcast and to all of our colleagues here. And for you, thank you for showing up and listening today. I appreciate you always. Decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at luannigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.